And so like Pepsi, sales is like, I'm waking up at 4 a.m, driving a delivery truck, lifting heavy cases, wearing like a uniform. And it's like something that you would not think you'll be doing after you have a college degree. And I'm graduating magna cum laude. You would not think that that's going to be a thing. But the right people saw, that I had that drive in me, and they were like, hey, look, we want to get you up to New York to run Brisk.
Welcome back to Have a Map, where we talk all things career. I'm your host, Mamadou Njai, founder of Dim Events. Excited to have Adejoke as my co-host today. This is the second time actually Adejoke has been on the podcast, and I think this is the first time that any intern has been on the podcast twice. So Adejoke, want to introduce yourself again to the audience?
Yeah, hey everyone. My name's Adejoke Dan Ware, like Mo said. I'm a senior at Southern Illinois University, and I'm also a public relations intern here at Dim Events. So yeah, I'm excited for this podcast today.
Perfect. And today I actually have one of my fraternity brothers on here.
Hey.
Dan, what's up? How are you doing?
What's going on, my brothers and my sisters? How's everybody doing?
Good. And Dan, can you introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about what you do? Because I know you're a man of many hats. So I would love for you to kind of let us know exactly what you do.
Yeah. So Dan Ware, based in Chicago, Illinois. And, essentially what I do is help progress the culture through marketing. So I do that a few different ways. And, day to day, I manage brand partnerships and client partnerships at a Black-owned agency, 1035, where we have clients like PepsiCo, Mountain Dew, Facebook, Nike, pretty robust clients. And then, kind of when the sun sets a bit, I have a brand new startup entitled Music Breaker, where essentially we help connect influencers and emerging artists to be able to pay to get their songs broken, to provide much more efficient marketing services to artists, and providing influencers a way to monetize their social influence.
So what exactly do you do on a day-to-day basis? Can you walk us through that?
Yeah. So, actually, you guys are catching me in a good time. So we officially just launched Life Water's Black Art Rising campaign, where essentially we built a time capsule which captures the moment in art for Black people, and in a wide variety and breadth of art. So whether it's protest art, whether it's just general empowerment, what have you, catching that in a very beautifully constructed website, and where artists are able to pass the mic, share the mic essentially with other artists, and all the while we, our website that we built helps bring them together to help sell their art on their stores, or what have you. So day to day, what that looks like is, one, I'm usually kind of the point person running the account, and then also just due to how the network I've built, and just whether it was like promoting or like just from college, fraternity, whatever, like I was able to just have a pretty robust repertoire of just kind of influencer and celebrity friends, if you will. So a lot of times I'm connecting dots with brands to help bring brand partnerships to life through influencers such as like a Mouse Jones, Scotty Beam, people of that nature. Also, with Black Art Rising, I was able to connect actually one of my co-founders for my app Music Breaker, Toby Wigwe, who had the hit song Try Jesus, Arrest the Cops That Killed Breonna Taylor. He just got considerations for multiple Grammys today, and we were able to connect him with Life Water to kick off the campaign. So as I look at my phone, we have we did a call to action to say like, hey, emerging artists, show us your art, and create a lot of user generated content. And as I look at my phone, we're somewhere around 500 posts so far. So we are definitely trying to make a big splash in the culture, and getting brands to really get behind this.
And before we kind of get into how you got started, because what you're doing is unique and very niche market and a hard market to right?
Yeah.
Not too many people know how to get into it. But you mentioned a few things. You talked about a Black-owned agency, which is very, I wouldn't say rare, but there's not too many Black-owned agencies that have a robust client.
Not with these kind of clients. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And how important is that to you for working at an agency like that?
Oh, no. So please believe I would have not been working at an agency had it not been this specific agency. So, you know, I actually started my career client side, and I actually worked at PepsiCo leading brands over there. And, you know, I left PepsiCo because I didn't feel as though I was getting the experiences that I would have liked to get at that, you know, stage in my career. You know, I felt like I checked a lot of boxes, and I was kind of ready for the next thing. I was also up in New York. I was pretty poor, you know, that story. So then I got an opportunity to go to Miller Coors to run culture, this new culture and community initiative for Coors Light. And, you know, I got there and it was cool, but, you know, at a certain point, I started to feel stifled in the ability to, you know, really execute on my vision. And kind of how, you know, as I was kind of reaching my breaking point there, I actually ran into the CEO of the agency I'm at now in the lobby. And I was actually a client for the agency. And, you know, I always kind of thought, I was like, man, if I'm going to go that route, that's where I want to be. And that's the type of work I want to do. And, you know, the CEO, Ahmed, who's my mentor, he was like, hey, you know, I'm looking for a director at my agency. And I'm like, oh, shit, I'm, you know, associate marketing manager. I can't be a director. And then, you know, I went to sleep, thought about it, and I called him and I was like, hey, that job still available? And then so I went to do there. But you know what I always envied about the marketing or the advertising agency side versus the client side is that I'm the type of person that it's very difficult for me to work on one single thing for a very long time. I get bored very quickly. I feel as though I've always been, you know, very, very unique in the sense of being a creative that understands the business and understands structure and tactics, right? And, you know, when it comes to an agency, you know, Ahmed loves it because I'm able to, you know, be an account director by day and run his, you know, business, and then also provide, you know, creative ideas that actually work and aren't your typical, you know, soup creative ideas that suck, right? You know, we're actually able to execute really dope stuff. And so, you know, it's infinitely important for me because I was so convicted in, you know, what I need to do at a career level to be happy and to feel fulfilled is I need to be pushing culture forward. I need to be in support of Black people. Just point blank period. That's how I've always been my entire life. And, you know, at the agency, you know, because it's a Black-owned agency, one, it makes me feel good to make, you know, a Black man, you know, and his partners, of course, you know, more money. But then two, also being able to put my will of the need to push culture forward and support Black people onto these massive brands that, you know, typically as a client, I have to play the politics game and I can't, you know, say what I want to say in meetings and I can't do what I want to do. And at the agency side, they pay us to think of the craziest stuff, you know, that we could think of. And, you know, a lot of clients get excited. Some clients don't, but, you know, clients get excited for super crazy ideas, which, you know, I sort of specialize in spending tremendous amounts of money to do crazy stuff. So, you know, it's been very important for me to have that Blackness in that journey.
Yeah. So walk us through your path after high school. Like, did you always know that this was kind of something that you wanted to do? Because I'm a senior in college and I'm like just now learning what experiential marketing is.
Yeah. No. So I did not know that. You know, I don't know what I thought I was gonna do. Like coming out of high school, I was a real Chicago guy. So like that, it got a little spooky for a while. But you know, I ended up going to FAMU And I knew I wanted to do business. I knew I wanted to do something in business, drive in business, and something in that. But, you know, as I, you know, progressed, you know, at one point, you know, I was like, oh, I'm going to go on Wall Street and I'm going to be a Wall Street guy. And, you know, I tried to do that. You know, I went to go work for the Federal Reserve and, you know, oversee Goldman Sachs accounts and things of that nature. And I was just like, it's just not me. And like, I didn't feel, you know, I felt like something was missing. I needed to stretch that creative muscle, even though, you know, I'm super good at math, super analytical guy, you know, I still needed that, you know, feeling to be fulfilled. So, you know, I went to, you know, when I was going to graduate, I had a bunch of offers. I interned at a bunch of places. I interned at Macy's doing management and procurement and like buying and planning. I did Eli Lilly, pharmaceutical sales, probably one other internship in there, I'm forgetting. But like I had left college with, you know, a ton of offers. And, you know, as I kind of had all those offers, I was like, what do I really want to do? And, you know, you know, I had to sit back and I originally, I took a job with Nielsen to, I was going to go back to Chicago. I was going to be working in Schaumburg and I was going to be doing, you know, marketing analytics. Right. And, so, you know, I looked at all of my jobs and I was like, I had an offer from Pepsi. And I was like, well, what I really want to do is I want to be the guy that got Beyonce on that Super Bowl stage that said Pepsi.
Mm.
And, you know, I started in a very, you know, it was a sales job. It was my lowest paying job offer. It was in Miami. I didn't have any family down there. And I was like, you know what, I'm just going to do it. And I'm just going to grind. And I know that I'll be able to network my way into this role. And, you know, to this date, I think I'm maybe one of the only people that have been able to make that transition. So, you know, it was a very risky move. But it also required me turning down a lot of promotions for sales roles and like, no, I'm waiting on this specific role. And so like Pepsi, you know, sales is like, I'm waking up 4 a.m, driving a delivery truck, you know, lifting heavy cases, wearing like a uniform. And it's like something that you would not think you'll be doing after you have a college degree. And I'm graduating magna cum laude. You know, you would not think that that's going to be a thing. But, you know, the right people saw, you know, that I had that drive in me. And they were like, hey, look, we want to get you up to New York to run Brisk. And then so, you know, I was running Brisk and then I was like, hey, listen, you know, you guys are kind of doing this wrong. You know, I know I'm junior. I know it's my first marketing role. I didn't, you know, like from a traditional marketing standpoint, I didn't know like the nitty gritty things that you need in marketing. But I was like, you know, I think you should do this. I think you should do that. It should be infused with culture. You should co-create. And this is back when co-creation, you know, now it's like kind of it's table stakes thing. But like back then it was super, you know, new and risky. And I ended up writing a strategy for them that to this date that they're still executing. So, you know, I still get happy when I see like, that's my baby, right? That's the brand that I always cherish the most. But, you know, I ended up getting promoted and then I really wanted to go to Mountain Dew. I was like, yo, my mentor at the time ran Mountain Dew MBA, his comms. And I was like, man, I really want that role. It fits my swag. Like, it's the shit. And then, so I ended up, didn't get that role. They put me on a sister brand, Amp Energy, which at the time, you know, had a super low budget and, you know, it just wasn't like as sexy. And I did it for a while and I was like, I can't do this. I was just trained. And then, so, you know, I went to Miller Coors, got to run the culture at Coors Light, and I ended up going through all things. And, you know, now I'm at 1035 and, you know, I started at 1035. They really initially
real quick before we get to 1035, I want to kind of track along what you did at that time, because I think it's super important for, you know, young creatives and people who are in their internship to kind of figure out how to navigate through those scenes. But a few things you talked about was taking a role in a sales position that wasn't ideal for what you wanted to do, but you knew you could cross over, right? Do you recall some of the things that helped you to be able to cross over into that role at PepsiCo? Were there, you know, people that you connected with outside of your current job? What did that look like real quick?
Yeah. So, you know, risky move. It is a risky move. I was very bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, fresh out of college. Um, you know, I think that if I was a betting man and you asked me to do that again, I don't know if I would have, right? Just because I've seen people try to do it and I've tried to give this advice and it's just not worked out, right? But if you do feel the way I felt at the time, you know, the things that you do each day make it so people like you enough to be able to recommend you, and they feel as though you can take on more responsibility. You're asking for stuff, but no, you have to put in the work. You have to execute. A lot of times you see people get frustrated and they say, I feel like I should be here, but they're not working at this level. If you feel like you should be here, you need to work at this level and really grind. And it's like, I was able to network across, the business and cold emailing people like, yo, this is what I'm interested in, and also being very vocal. That's a lot of things. People, aren't vocal, and you have to find the right people to be vocal with. But you also, as you're being vocal, you have to be stellar at your job. You can't suck or be just average and then ask for something out of the norm. That's just not realistic. So you really just have to execute. I think that's the defining factor between people who are successful, people who are not.
Definitely. And then another thing I wanted to touch on is a lot of students who have these creative minds don't understand, like, what does that look like to create like marketing strategies and all of that stuff. So like, can you walk us through a little bit, and some of this stuff maybe you can't talk about, but maybe a few bits and pieces of like creating that idea of co-creation at Brisk when it was like not around, because everyone's like, oh yeah, co-creation, yeah, that's easy. We understand exactly what that is, but when it wasn't there, it's a lot harder to pitch somebody on to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on this idea that's not existent. So can you touch on that a little bit?
So yeah, so what I do, and I still do to this day, is like, one, when I find a presentation or a deck that's better than mine, I take the pieces that I like and build that into my deck, where each one of my decks just gets better and better, and it helps me get tighter on the idea, and just helps me present it better. That's one thing. And so like early on, I'm Googling what does a marketing presentation look like? What are the key things that you need to, hit on, and understanding all that very technical things on marketing. But the other thing that's always helped me, and it's why I always want to be good to our people and always want to make sure I'm pushing the culture forward, is because for me as a marketer, it's always so easy to see where the world will be 5-10 years from now if you just look at the hood. it's like we've always been like super innovative and just doing stuff, whether it's drawing on sneakers or wearing patches on this and doing that and mixing, putting, like, it's funny because like a really cool story is like the guy who created the Flamin' Hot Cheeto at Pepsi. He was like a janitor, and he was basically had some Cheetos and he was like dipping it in this like hot powder, and then they were like, yo, what is this? And he was like, it's just it's like a family recipe, is like what we do. I forget, he was Latinx, I forget exactly what ethnicity, but like, they took that, and it's just a prime example of like the culture, being so much further ahead than like a potential $1 billion idea. So for me, like, co-creation was natural, because I'm like, yo, you want the hot product? You stop hiring all of these super, upper echelon agencies, all of these, bougie New York guys, and go tap some of these young creatives that are in college that are have the bright ideas, that have fresh eyes on this stuff, because those are people closest to the streets. And what you're finding a lot in culture is that the people that end up being the hottest 5 years from now are the emerging guys, right? The Virgil Ablohs, the Luca Sabats, the Luigi Villasenors, like all these people that would be begging a brand to collaborate with them 5 years from now. They have the hottest stuff. So it's a matter of like, when you're able to be on the ground level and be a king that still speaks the common touch. It's an alpha thing, that. But it's like when you have that, you're able to, you're able to execute at a higher level because you know these people, right? And so for me, a guy like me, why I haven't been able to succeed so far at 1035 is because I grew up with some of these people that are now the hot designers and the hot artists, and I did things for them and I gave them a chance and giving them their first brand dollar. But it's very much about keeping your ear to the streets.
Ah, I love that.
And you talked a little bit going back about networking and how important it is to network. And as a student, like we get told that a lot. So just, do you have any advice for students on how to network? You mentioned like cold emailing, but is there anything else that you've been doing?
Yeah. And this is one thing that I've learned in recent years, and I'm happy that the world is good and bad at the same time, because we're at a world post May 25th where people are finally seeing Black people in their Blackness, right? I got locks. I don't think I would have had locks talking to PepsiCo 5-10 years ago, right? But I think when it comes to marketing, what people told me back then, and I never felt confident enough to execute, was like, bring your full self to work, show people who you really are. I was always throwing parties, all around the country on weekends. And then I would go to work and they'd be like, how was your weekend? I was like, nothing, chill, and really I should have been selling like, yo, I just had Travis Scott come to my party, it's super lit. I know you don't know who Travis Scott is, but you will one day, and like, so, I wish I bought my full self to work. And so advice with networking is be polished, and you'll hear all the idioms of like, you're Black, you have to, be, better, faster, smarter, more polished. And yes, that's true. But also bring your culture, which bring your full self, wear your natural hair, speak in your dialect. If they don't know the slang, tell them the slang. Now, I'm not saying shuck and jive and like dance. Oh, that, be cautious of like that, those microaggressions. But, I would say as you're networking, the more natural you become, the easier it will be. And the more people feel like, wow, I'm getting organic Dan, I'm getting organic Mo, you'll feel as though, they know you. And that's what is the difference between they're looking at 2 resumes and they have to recommend somebody. Well, no, I know him. I know her, I'm cool with her. And maybe you're not, my style, maybe I didn't connect with everything, but, I know them. So that would be my thing. But yeah, sending follow-up emails is always a good one. Detailed notes, all table stakes. I think some people start to gloss over. You need to have all of that first, but then also bring that other piece, and that's what will help you shine forward. And do as I say, not as I do, because sometimes I don't do it all the way right. But like, when you are able to do it like that, it does yield results.
That's great advice. And I know you were getting to 1035, but I wanted to touch on like, what are some of your favorite projects that you put together at 1035?
Yeah. So I've done so much. And what's funny is like with 1035, like I'm always the type of guy that I keep my resume up to date. Like it's just something I do because I'll forget like a very important detail about a project or a thing I've done because I'm running so fast. So I try to document all of that stuff. And it's funny going agency side, because what you'll realize is that the breadth of your experience gets so much deeper and just cooler versus client side. Because like in the 3 years I've been at 1035, I've worked across like probably like 10 to 15 brands, done probably 20 campaigns, things like that, versus like, client side, I probably worked on one campaign for like a year and a half to like, get it sold in, or worked on bringing a product for 2 years to be able to bring it forward. So, some of my favorite projects, I think that we've done an amazing job with Mountain Dew and the NBA. And, as they, when they first started, when we first got that account, they were kind of talking to Black people, but not really. And I think we've gotten them to a comfort level of like, Black people are our target consumer, or at least our creative target. And, once we get this Black thing right, everything else will kind of flow out of it and people will look at it as aspirational. But like, Mountain Dew, one thing that they always try to do, they always want to do a dope clothing collab. And then we were able to deliver, them a couple of clothing. We've done 3 to date. We've done one with RSP Gallery, we done one with Rude, and we've done one with Eric Emanuel. And each one, I think, has been, they're on StockX and Grail for, thousands of dollars. Like it's highly coveted things. So that's something that was super cool to me, because I always had like a bucket list. Like, I want to do a clothing collab, I want to produce an album, I want to produce a movie, things like that. I still haven't yet to be able to do the album or the movie thing, but I think that's a cool example. The other thing is Cavassier. So we did a program called In Honor of Your City, where essentially, I was able to grab Hypebeast and say, hey, we want to shoot some content. I want to do it with Kid Art, who was at the time, I don't want to say emerging director, but like, he was one of those if you know guys. Mm-hmm. And, he was able to create some super dope content. And I was able to get all the influencers that I wanted to work with at the time. Goldlink, Mike Camargo, Ruizy Villasenor, all like really cool people that like the culture knew about, but I don't know if the general world knew about. And so why that was so cool to me is like that content, when it first drops, people are like, oh, that's cool. But then when you look back like 3 years from now, you're like, oh, that's ill, and it makes your portfolio look so much more robust. The other thing was like when we rebuilt Truth Nightclub from Power, and we bought that to each city, and we had 50 show up. We had Dre show up, or Timmy show up. People like that was like super cool. We had Tommy's Mustang outside. It was a super cool thing. So I could probably talk for days on just campaigns. Let me just give one last one. One last one was She Got Now, which was with Pepsi, where we were able to tap Essence. And, Pepsi wanted to talk to, they wanted to get involved with HBCUs, and they wanted to talk to Black people. And I was like, hey, I think what's important is celebrating Black women. And, we were able to develop a program where we were able to celebrate Black women in all these different ways, like, providing, tapping, the hottest mentors from each HBCU to grab the next up, entrepreneur, or, whatever that student may have been. We were able to highlight women chefs, women DJs. We had like Sweetie performing Cash Doll, and this is all last year. They weren't even that big yet. And, doing stuff like that where, I felt really good. It was also a year I got married to a Black woman. So I was like, I get to come home like, like we're celebrating Black women in a what I think meaningful way, giving out scholarships and doing things that, end up feeling small to a brand, but could change somebody's life. And as a marketer, you'll never know, because you're behind the scenes, right? You're not like forward, like, this is what I did. But like, you'll never know what that outcome was. But, sometimes I like to think about, what that potential impact actually was. So those are some of the things that really hit near and dear to my heart and just my career.
Yeah, I think with all that impactful work, and like, I'm sure your schedule is so busy. How do you find time to really take care of yourself, right? Because self-care is such an important thing, right? And especially when you're creative, you have to come up with ideas, right? Your quote unquote livelihood is to come up with these new ideas, these radical ideas that you kind of talked about. So how do you keep that progressing rather than, some people can come up with ideas and then, they're just burnt out and then they have to leave the agency life because it's so fast paced?
Well, one, you have to feel where you get energy from. Some people, that's not where they get their source of energy. The other thing is like, a big thing is like, no one want to say no. Like, it's just like, and you have to be in that position. I've fortunately worked hard enough, even though, I'm still not, where I think I will be or where I want to be. But like, I've worked hard enough to be in a position where like, I can't take this meeting and, or, I need, a second, right? I've also, or what's also important is, having that communication flow with your team and your boss, where it's like, they know, when you need time just to chill and, when you need time when it's time to like grind. The other thing that's really, that I do a lot is I try to schedule out as far in advance as I can. I black out time to think, to meditate, whether it's 15, whether it's 30, what have you. I block that time out, and it's a hard no. You can't schedule anything unless the business is gonna burn down and we're going bankrupt and everything is going to hell. That's my time. And another thing is be purposeful in the time that you're working. I've tried a little bit of everything, like working in 15-minute sprints, setting alarm clocks, to know when to shift things. I tried the thing where it's like you only touch an email once, either you pass it along or you do it. And I've tried like, Trello and just all those things. And I think at this point, I probably have a nice combination of those type of things that work. But I think the most efficient or the biggest thing that I do is that I'm efficient with my time, and not everybody can do this, but I'm one of the guys that I can do, 10 hours of work in 2 hours, and yeah, you might be exhausted. And I complain to my wife all the time, like I'm mentally drained, but like, I feel like MJ after the flu game, a lot of times it's like, we got the ring, we're champions. So, you have to find your flow and what works for you. But I will say, just try new things and really push yourself out of your comfort zone, learn how to say no. Yeah, that's it.
What does a day off of work look like for you?
I mean, now I'm in startup life, right? So like when I and I mean, it's always kind of been like this. Like at one point, me and my friends, we've owned a club in Chicago. So like, I was literally like, music blasting, like writing decks, right? Or like, doing bottle service with decks. Like I've literally done that. I should have probably got better pictures of that type of stuff. But like, or, I've been throwing parties, so I'm traveling and now it's like, I'm in Austin right now, like literally in a incubator sprint, and I took off, Wednesday through Friday to be able to like literally dedicate this time. But like, if I had to like pick, time, one thing about me is I found a level of comfort and discomfort. And so like being able to work when I don't feel like working and doing all of that and making the most out of like off days, like if I can catch up. But in like some days, like it's like a true off day. I'm traveling, I'm turning my phone off. Like, like email is on vacation mode. I'm chilling with my dog. I'm, going to travel with my wife, kicking it with my boys. This is all pre-COVID stuff, right? But like, I also love to play Call of Duty. I'll do that for 20 hours at a time. Like, watch movies, do all that stuff. I'm a huge podcast listener. I listen to music a lot. So like, I try to make the most and just do things that bring me joy. But I'm also been fortunate enough to have a job that I can have a bright idea during things that bring me joy, right? Like I'll be playing Call of Duty. Yo, this feature is crazy. We should put a brand next to it. And, or I'm listening to music. Yo, that's the next artist that should perform at this next experiential event, right? So things like that. But, it's a lot. I do a lot and I also chill a lot too. So that works as well.
I love that. I love that. And as we kind of get to the point of wrapping up, we always like to talk about music, right? And you just brought that up, so that's perfect. Over these last few days or maybe it's been this last month, are there any artists that you are consistently listening to, or maybe a few artists that you have, or maybe it's an album that's like your go-to album? Like for me, like I think it's Mailbox Money. It's like if I'm trying to get something done, that's what I go to. So for you, what is that?
So one, we're literally building music tech that breaks new artists. So like we have been listening to new music nonstop, some good, some bad. So if I had to drain that list, that would be exhausting. But we're literally developing tech to make that process a lot easier and get you paid to do it. But the other thing is Jay Electronica just dropped the album that was, Act 2 is 10 years old. It was on somebody's hard drive and they leaked it. So I've been listening to that. I think my go-to album probably is a Written Testimony by Jay Electronica and Jay-Z, and pretty much anything Hove, like it's gonna get me in a mode where, I start feeling like a boss. I start feeling myself. Victory Lap is another one that gets me in that mode. And I'm a huge J. Cole fan. So like anything Cole, like, will do it. So, but I tend to like very lyrical rap. And I also like to digest albums in entirety. So I don't like typically like listening to singles. And I think some of that stems from like just throwing parties and just hearing like singles all day long. But like I love to listen to the breadth of a project, and you start to hear new drums and new sounds, and catch a lyric that you didn't quite get before, and I love that discovery element and that just epiphany moment. So yeah.
Best lyrical rap album, I think, is The Score by the Fugees. I love
That's a
that
good
album.
one. So actually, my favorite album ever is Miseducation of Lauryn Hill.
I
That's
love
my
that.
favorite album ever.
That's a good
Anytime.
one.
Then Bottleism is probably next. So
Yeah, that album is perfect.
That's crazy. And one of the things I also want to touch on is, what's it like? Because I think a lot of people, and for me, I kind of built my business off of that, where I had a 9-to-5 and I was still doing a side hustle on the side that became my main gig. But what's it like balancing that 9-to-5 and still doing stuff outside of your work?
I mean, you got to find the flow that works for you. I mean, the thing that works for me is that every venture I have the same partners. We are lockstep. We're able to read each other's thoughts at certain points, and it builds a support system where if I drop a ball, they're right there catching it. So, but I think that support system is key. I think also keeping your eye on the prize and just knowing what you're building. At the end of the day, I'm a big proponent of ownership and entrepreneurship, and I do believe in entrepreneurship, right? I think that you should for sure have a 9-to-5 early on, and you're learning these systems that these corporations have put in place. You're learning politics, you're earning structure, and you're also learning like probably very technical skills that you can then take into your entrepreneurship role. But you always want to keep in mind that like, this is to pay the bills. This is temporary. My 5 to 9 is gonna make me rich. That's where I'm working for my last name, not my first. That's where I'm giving this to my grandkids. And not everybody is building something that gargantuan. And sometimes it's just maybe I just want to have a little side money to buy a Gucci bag, or something like that, some shoes or something. But I personally always think that you need to find the flow that works for you, so that you're able to have multiple streams of income. I was taught very early on that the average millionaire has 7 streams of income. So you gotta you get one, you automate it, figure out how to get it to run itself, go on to the next, on to the next, on to the next, until you're to the point where you're working for yourself. And I've seen people that do that, and they are such happy people. You'd rather be stressed working for yourself than stressed working for somebody else, worrying about if you're gonna get fired, where my next meal is, any of that. So yeah, that would be my advice there.
Beautiful. Adejoke, do you have anything else you want to touch on before we wrap up?
One question for me is just, how do you stay inspired in your work?
Stay inspired. I just I look at the streets, and always try to make the world better for our Black people is probably 2 things. And then the other thing is just always remaining curious, always asking yourself, what if, right? And I always joke with some of my business partners, because one is like super like pie in the sky. The other is probably a little bit more rational. I'm probably somewhere in the middle any given day. And it's like, you always have to keep asking yourself, what if? And like, sometimes the what if is completely impossible at this given time. But then sometimes it's like, no, that can work. And if you got to do it like this to do that, and just like literally putting those pieces together just keeps me inspired and keeps me going.
Oh, that's great advice. And Dan, we just want to thank you for being on the podcast.
No problem. Thank you.
What we like to do is just give a round of applause. It's our virtual round of applause. So thank you so much. Truly appreciate it.
You guys are killing it. I love what you're doing. This is it seems like it's going to be super important to people, and I just love it. And I hope you guys keep going.
Thank you. No, we appreciate you, and thank you for taking time out of the incubator season and getting everything done out in Austin. So we truly
I needed this 45 this hour. I don't know how long we've been talking. I needed this. Trust me. Anything for you, Fred.
I appreciate it, Fred. So thank you to all our listeners listening, whether this is your morning routine, evening routine. We are out. Skirt.